Oh, I am so glad that you found your way back to the Yoga and Black podcast. But if you're new to the show, welcome. The show is all about sharing the stories of Black yoga and holistic wellness providers all around the world. And the goal is to bring more community awareness to the Black folks that not only practice yoga, but teach it too, to show our community that we too participate in these practices to help us heal and lead fuller lives. So, without me talking anymore, please, please, I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for listening. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Tierney here with the Yoga in Black podcast, and I'm excited to have Ro Nwosu with me today. I am so excited. I can't remember when we started following each other, but I just remember seeing your energy and was just like, oh, yes, love it. So I am extremely excited to have this opportunity to get to know you a little bit more. So I'm just going to keep it brief here. Ro's from Ontario. So we're in Canada now, y'all.
Hey.
Yes. Ro is also a yoga teacher and the CEO of Union 108, which is a wellness company. And I am excited to get to learn all about that and the origins and the beautifulness of it. So I'm shutting up. Ro, tell us all about yourself real quick.
Yeah. Okay. What is there to say? There's so much. I've been teaching for over 12 years. It's been a long time when I think about it now. I owned a studio in 2017 and closed it 2020 due to the pandemic. Super grateful for that, actually. I'm super grateful. I'm a mom to an awesome kid who I call the Fleshling and is a decade old, which is incredible to me. I own Union 108 right now, which has really amazing teachers and connectors and community builders. I'm a Lululemon ambassador, which is fun. And I love pie to the fullest. I bleed pie. I love pie. Dessert pie, dessert pie, and any
Top three pies.
Ooh.
Go.
Saskatoon berry and rhubarb, mango and rhubarb, and then I really love a Guinness pie. But
What's
I will
a Guinness pie?
It's like steak and potatoes.
Oh,
the Guinness infused gravy and then beef, but it's better with bison, not with ground beef.
Interesting.
Yeah, or torch there.
Do they veganize this?
You could. You could.
I'm not a vegan. I just don't eat meat.
No, but you could. You could. 100%. You could veganize any pie, I think.
Interesting.
I've had vegan pies. They're delicious. Oh,
Guinness pie.
And sometimes they put them in a hand pie, so it's portable. Anyway, I'm a lover of that.
Don't get me started on things you can stuff in dough that just.
I know. Makes me so happy. Is that dough? I was like, okay, I'll eat it. Is that dough? Okay, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'll take it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my thing. Yeah, and I've lived in Arnprior for a couple of years, but I lived in the Ottawa Valley, which is actually outside of the nation's capital of Canada. And so I've lived in a small town since I was 19, rather than a city. So very different aspect when it comes to with yoga, and then also being Black in general. With everything else. Yeah. So it's been a really fun journey. Yeah. Those are the things I do. And then other things about me, I'm super weird. Which I love.
Kindred spirits over here. I love it. Yes. So now you got me stuck on pie. I'm over here damn, I'm hungry.
It's the world. What I do with friends. The pie, pick it up, enjoy it.
Yo, I love that. That thought just totally took over because I'm what was I gonna ask her? Because now I'm when can I get some pie?
Do it.
I'm gonna have to figure it out. I gotta figure it out. Oh, but 12 years of teaching, that is a feat. Tell me about the journey before teaching started. What fostered your love for the practice and then leading into wanting to teach it?
So before, really what I knew about yoga was more the physical through sports. I used to play volleyball and basketball and a couple other sports, and that kind of carried into university. Mm-hmm. And I always used to be the one kind of facilitating stretch and just like helping people out with that because I was breaking everything. Everything hurt at the time. I was going through this like massive growth spurt in high school. And I was like, everything hurts.
Yeah.
Um, and the height that I am now is the height that I was in like grade 9 or 10, and just like stopped there and capped there. Yeah. So it was very intense
Yeah.
moments of that. And so that was kind of like my role. And it kind of switched into that through my first year of university. Um, and then I just left university, which was fun because I was pregnant actually, and then ended up having a miscarriage. So I've gone through 5 miscarriages before I had my little dude. And what I knew of yoga was like, yeah, show up, stretch, do some breathing, and like it's all good. I went through a period of postpartum depression after I had my kid, and and he's in the other room, so I'm gonna. Oh. And
Yeah.
it was, it was all the things, and if y'all can see my face, it was all the things. Um, and I was up really, really late, and I wasn't sleeping, really wasn't eating, and I was watching TV back when, like, I paid for cable, and there were commercials. I miss commercials sometimes. I don't know why, but I miss commercials.
I miss
The
commercials in the traditional sense too.
the
Yeah.
safety of them, the jingle, just like I still remember the State Farm jingle. Anyhow, uh, I know it just comes back every so often.
Oh,
Uh,
trust. Same.
um, and when I was trying to nurse my kid, I wasn't having really a great time with that. There was a infomercial type thing.
Mhm.
And I guess the infomercial was like they were trying to facilitate or put together like it was pranayama, it was a breathwork practice.
Okay.
And I just noticed that I was like, that's really interesting. And I think it was the voice, the silence, even though there was still noise. And it was like the first time my kid stopped crying, stopped scratching my chest,
Yeah.
and kind of just like nursed. And it was the first time I was like, why is there silence here? Like, I'm not
Wow.
crying. My kid's not crying. I'm not, freaking out.
Yeah.
And he had actually slept a solid like 5 hours, which was amazing.
Mm.
So I was like, I'm gonna see if I can find this again the next
Yeah.
day, and the next day was something different. So like someone was moving, and the next day someone was like meditating. The next day there were just different things. But like from mantra and like kirtan, that was the thing that I was like really that came up the most that I was like into. And I love music, I love dance, I love that. That
Yeah.
also gives me like that dopamine like hit, but also just makes me feel like connected more to my body in that. And the conversations that were happening of like, things are going to be hard, but there's a way to kind of see more beyond it.
Mhm.
And like that kept coming up. And as that kept coming up and noticing, like, okay, my kid's sleeping, I'm sleeping a little bit, I feel like I got a little bit more handle on things, even though I don't know what I'm doing. But like,
Yeah.
this is coming here. And then one day I was like, I need to go and get help somewhere. I gotta like, it just clicked in. I was like, okay, I need to do this. And so, like, I feel like that gave me the window to kind of see a little bit more clearly. And I was just like, I wonder what this is. Like, and, they're going over, like, oh, it's yoga and this is what we're doing. And I'm like, you know what? I want to learn more about it than outside of like athletics.
Yeah.
And so I looked for a teacher training everywhere in Ottawa, which is the closest city, because I just didn't, in the small town that I was in, I didn't think that it would
Yeah.
be there. And it was wintertime. And like, I found a few trainings, and like the cost was like, oh, okay, I can't do this.
Look,
Not. And then I
even in
was
Canada too. Dang.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like in the States, it's definitely expensive, but
I had to
like
get a second
in Canada,
job.
it's the same. Yeah, in Canada, it's the same. Like it's the same, and I understand in an aspect too of like it is a profession and it should be treated like one too in that sense. In another sense, I've got some other issues with it, but
Yeah. Same.
know, it's like a twofold. And so like I would go to these studios to see what they were like, and I was just like, ooh, I feel like shit walking in here. Or
Hmm.
talking to someone on the phone, I was like, okay.
Oof.
Those conversations of like, well, like that, and I'm like, okay. If that's the energy that starts off with just like the
Oh,
conversations of me asking questions,
yeah,
um,
that's telling.
that was hard. And having a newborn at that time who was only like 6 months, 7 months or so, that was really tough. And so I let it go. I found work and I just kept kind of figuring out what I could. Actually, I think that's when Instagram first started. I think so. I
Yeah.
think it's when Instagram actually first started, like 2012, 2013. And
Yeah.
so I found like the first yoga pic and I was like, ooh, what's that? And I'm like, that's interesting. We're like, oh, we're having a yoga challenge. I was like, what's a yoga challenge? And it was just like doing different postures. And, that kind of kept me in line of like
Yes.
picking up something slowly, adding more to it. Um, there used to be an app, yoga something that like, I remember it's a purple icon. And so like it had like just the sun salutation on it. And then there was like a Rodney like video that came with it. So then I would like practice that. And then I saw Faith Hunter online. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, she looks like me. I was like, I've never seen really anyone that looks like me, like
Hmm.
doing shit. It was cool. And I was like, vibe, like, I like the vibe, that's cool. And so followed her, and then like that kind of cultivated more learning and wanting to know. And then the Cody app, which is now like Alo Yoga, or whatever else, had come out.
Yeah.
And that kept me connected because people were messaging each other, being like, hey, I did this class. What class did you do? Or hey, I'm doing this. Like, and people were more interactive. And that like really got me going with like more meditation still and like breath work and then definitely the mantra and like words of affirmation. And that's really where I stayed in that
Yeah.
aspect of yoga. And then getting a little bit closer, I was like, I really do want to take a teacher training to learn more the history because I'm looking at books in the library, I'm looking here, but I need to be present in it.
Yeah.
But again, calling people and asking, it was like, I still have a newborn. Can I do this with a young, well, not newborn at that time, but like, can I still do this with a young kid? And a lot of it was like, nope, 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 nope. But then I found a spot in my small town that actually did it on like one weekend a month or so.
Nice.
And that was possible at the time. I found a babysitter if I could. Sometimes I left my baby with my partner at the time. I was just like, I got fucking shit to do. I'm doing
Yeah.
something for fucking self.
Doing something for me.
Like I sold my
Yes.
clothes, I sold my stuff, I sold everything I possibly could just to pay for this, had the job and I was working at it. I was teaching classes to like close friends at the time, even like, and not even to be a teacher, just to be like, I need to recite this out to you. So like, I feel like I understand like what this is about, and the
Yeah.
history of this posture and like more and more. And that kind of cultivating into doing that teacher training until got my certificate and stuff. And I found that it was hard to even just show up
Mm.
sometimes in that. There is always like this barrier of offering a training, but
Hmm.
because of that scarcity shit, making sure that the people who are in the training don't have access to shit.
Mm.
And that's just like that is a thing. And like
Mm.
what the fuck ever. That's a thing. It's up to people to kind of get out of that the best that they can. We all feel that way sometimes,
Yup.
but being the only Black woman in that training at the time, and actually in the area, as far as I know, the only Black yoga teacher
That's
um,
crazy.
in Ottawa and here, actually up until like Toronto area. I've never met anyone else. And it wasn't until really like 2020 I've been full time since for a while now. Um, so like at the time, uh, the business or the teacher training had like a you can't teach within 30 kilometers like of the space, and that's okay. Like that's a thing that some people have. Yeah, that's a thing. And like at the time, I understood it's a small town. If every person you trained opened up a space in this small town, it would be a lot, and there's the potential for a lot of people to do that. Again, I don't appreciate it. Didn't know at the time that I was really the only one, kind of, that was really
Yeah.
enforced upon. And I
Whoa.
think,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, I think only enforced upon because there was conversations had that I was like, oh, are you having these conversations with other people? Because I was like, okay, I understand. You don't want me to teach yoga here. I don't need to teach yoga here. But 32 kilometers from the town, I will teach yoga there. And I got into another actually fitness modality called like Pound. It's got green drumsticks. you know, like bam, all over stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of
I
that.
loved it. Dance, move up and down. It was a energy like thing that I loved. I could bring my kid to class. I could bring him everywhere. So like he came with me everywhere I went. And I was like, you just sit here and I'm just gonna do this thing and teach class and then we're gonna go home. And like that was really fun. And I'm actually grateful for that because it helped me see my practice and see the way that I want to teach, knowing that the
Yeah.
way that I teach is okay. And the way that I'm
Hmm.
rooted in my teaching is okay. And that I still have a lot to learn, but learning from different spaces is also okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, that really just like pulled me into so many weird and grateful avenues. But at the same time, I always felt like, oh, I was never allowed to shift beyond a certain space, whether it was based on like financial
Yeah.
scarcity, or it was based on, you know, someone else's fear of something that already happened beforehand,
Yeah.
which is understandable. But again, there was never that aspect of wanting to community together. And so I think if there was that aspect, it would have been a different story. But
Right.
it was once I started teaching somewhere else and like the pull and the draw was big, well, you could teach it here. And it was like, well, I can't actually. The Fullers wouldn't take it, you know, and like this is actually supporting, like yoga wasn't supporting my kid. This was actually supporting my lifestyle to A, get out of my
Right.
relationship, be on my own, you know. Yeah, and then I just started teaching yoga all over in the area. And then when I closed in 2020, I think it was a shock for people to learn that there was like a black yoga teacher, not in the city, outside of the city.
Yeah.
And we all know why like that opportunity came up in 2020 because like I don't think if the brutality, you know, of like George Floyd losing his life, I think if that
Yeah.
was never there, there would have never been any.
No.
I would have just been like gone to the wind. Like, you know, we would all have been gone to the wind. Essentially, it would have been like, oh,
%.
there wouldn't
Yeah.
be any of this conversation. And I don't think the people right now who are coming into teaching and stuff, I don't know if those opportunities would be there.
Hmm.
I love that there's scholarships because listen, ain't nobody can fucking afford shit these days. And
At
I love that
all.
those things are there, but I don't think the consideration was ever there until there was the, but are you actually fucking doing it? Or are you just like, you know, and so grateful, but also like, you're kind of like, I wish, I'm grateful it's there, but I honestly wish it was under different circumstances that you
Yeah.
wanted to do it because you wanted to do it, you know?
Hmm.
And so and like, again, it's like a weird balance and feeling in that. Um, yeah, and it just kind of shifted. Everything is shifted. Like, ugh.
As it does. As it
It
does.
does,
Yeah.
yeah. Goodness. I was
Man.
like, where was I going with that?
No, I mean, you took us on one hell of a journey. I know you saw my face shift when you told me
Mhm.
about that whole thing that they were telling you about not teaching within a certain radius. Like in my mind, it's like, then why offer a teacher training if either you're not going to hire people to teach for you or let them just do what they do within the area that they live, within the community? Like, is it taking away from your table as much as you think it is?
Yeah, and I
Or
think at the time it could have maybe. You know, I can see how it would have looked if there's been a lot of trainings through this space, like at the
Mhm.
time, and like I can understand if like maybe every time there was a teacher training, someone was like, let me start teaching here, let me start teaching here, and there was not many like there was the one yoga spot and the community center, and that was about it, you know. And if like
Yeah.
more things popped up, I could see in proximity how that looks. And since then, I feel like that town has shifted its mindset, which is great. It's taken some time, but
Good.
like it's
Yeah.
shifted its mindset. And it took like a me burning out and going into a small business grant program. And someone, they have like these 4 weeks of specifics, and it's like finances, information you should know, setting up your business and stuff. And I was like, okay,
Mhm.
well, I think I want to be like rooted. because I was driving 30 minutes here, 40 minutes here, hour here, wherever else in the smaller towns to make ends meet. And
Been
like,
there.
I almost hit transport truck in the middle of winter, like, and being like, I need to go to bed. I cannot be
Yeah.
doing these things. And it took a lawyer in this program to be like, that's not a real thing. No one can tell you to do that. I was like, I would have never
Yeah.
known because no one gives you just assume like this person's been doing that. And that's another thing too, being that inexperienced at the time and realizing that like the business of yoga portion that was given
Yeah.
was very minute,
Oh yeah.
and I would
It's
have
not
never known
it's not a
outside of
focus in a lot of trainings
that.
either.
No.
And
And it's
so
not
a
like,
lot of us are flying blind as soon as
oh
we
my
finish a
goodness.
200 hour with this expectation that you know what you need to know to be a teacher. No, you
Yeah.
don't.
And it's like
No, you
it
don't.
takes so long before unless someone's willing to offer you the information,
Right.
or unless someone's willing to be like, I'm even if you open down the street, that's okay, whatever. You ain't gonna do what I do, and you're gonna do what you do, and that's fine. But I never
Exactly.
knew it was never like you weren't allowed to. There are some places where like I know in the States definitely it might be mandatory in some states, but in Ontario it's not a law. You can't tell someone not to open up. If you train someone with the skills and you tell them they can't use it to like support their family,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. And like again, I think those are just things again from that stems from maybe it happening, in the past,
Yeah.
and the sense of like working together is not already established in that community to begin with,
Right.
or like it's or whatever it may be. And like I can't speak for that person, I can't whatever else, it's fine. And like at
Yeah.
the time, like I will give up that story because it's like it is what's propelled me forward in being like, there are times I'm not going to get along with people, and I'm also going to hate people being like fuck you whatever. Like I don't fucking do it. And like I'm African, I'm a judgy as fuck. Like sometimes I can be very fucking judgy, and I will admit like I'm also the notion that like I think community work is important, like it's needed,
Extremely.
and I also think like
Yes.
collaboration is important. There are some times where you can be like, I cannot, no, I can't do
Thank
this
you.
with you, but there's also a notion to at least give it a chance rather than cut people off. Or you can get in your feelings about if someone's doing something similar down the street,
Yeah.
that's okay, get in your feelings, but then really look in and be like, is it bothering me because like they have the courage to do this and that's why I'm feeling like a little bit about it, or is it bothering
Hmm.
me because like I did give up like something that was very personal and they're using that, and like those are the things. But when it comes to training and you're giving people these like, you're giving them a whole you're giving them literally like careers, you're giving them conversations about like their life, you're giving them conversations and like spaces and information about a tradition that has like guided people from
Right.
life until like death, and then you're telling them like, you can't be sharing that shit anywhere, don't be sharing that shit close to me, share that shit to fucking countries, I
It's
don't know.
contradict, and that's why I was so confused. I'm like, that's so contradictory to offer yoga teacher trainings, but then be like, well, you can't teach here, you can't teach there. You can't, then why did you train me in this?
But it's
What?
the separation of business and yoga though, sometimes
Yeah.
that separation rather than thinking of them can work together somehow, but it's still that complete separation of like, but which I said, like, I need to protect me. Therefore, if you're going to come take this training, this is what's going to happen.
Hmm.
And it is what it is.
Whew.
But
I'm sorry that that first of all, because you
kind
did
of
mention
grateful.
that they kind of singled you out in a lot of this
It
discourse
felt
about that
like
type
it.
of
And I
thing.
think like, even if it's like, and this is how I feel. So like, it felt singled out because of the conversations of like, hey, now that you're doing this, come over
Yeah.
here. Oh, you don't want to? We're not going to have any conversation. And I looked up to that person too as a mentor in that aspect. And so
Yeah.
that, it did hurt at the time. And then I realized like, just not my space to be in. But again, I was at an age and a space where I was feeling very like inadequate in a lot of things
Hmm.
and not trusting, something, we all still do to this day, not trust ourselves in certain stuff. But like, definitely at that time, not trusting the way I teach and figuring out that maybe I need to teach the same way this person taught, and like
Yeah.
that was continuously there. Not being able to find your voice because there isn't a space to like mentor and help people afterwards. And so
Yeah.
while I'm always like, when I think about it sometimes, and again, or I'm asked about how I get into yoga, and I'm honest about it, I'm like, it sucked at the time, but I can see now that like a gift in itself of that I realized, okay, I can't let people fuck me around like that anymore, and I need
Right.
to like also do your research for sure, but also that like spaces weren't built with me in mind,
Yeah.
and spaces weren't built with people who are told that they're weird, or told that they are, very energetic, or told that they are from a different place. Like that stuff isn't there. There's a certain sense of like, you gotta compose yourself a certain way and you gotta do stuff a certain way. And I think I always get that reminder after a class when someone's like, I did not expect it to work out to this class randomly or in the middle. I did not expect to dance. I didn't expect to like roll my spine. I didn't expect to like look over and ask someone like, what up? Like I didn't expect to move around here with like big words of affirmation, yelling and like letting everything out. I didn't expect these things, or like I didn't expect for the yoga teacher to like laugh and make jokes in class, or have a different voice, or like scream the F word sometimes, and like I
Yes.
know the tradition is so solid. The tradition is so solid. And then we also have to take a look at it as like, but how does that tradition come out of you as in like authentically without
Yes.
disturbing like where it's come from? And I think we get into this mind conversation war of like, we got to be doing stuff this way all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is the issue. We've been doing stuff this way because the system tells us to do it this way. You
Mm-hmm.
know what system I'm talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you fuck outside of it, people are like, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, why not? That's where dreams and like other shit and creative shit has come out from. And that's where
Exactly.
we actually get a chance to take a look at like something we never knew about ourselves when we see it from a different space. It's
Mm-hmm.
great that everyone is seeing, things from like maybe before seeing things from like okay, you go into a space, you feel comfortable, it's all good, but like that's not the reality for like 70 fucking percent people when
Thank
they
you.
come in. It's not the reality for me when I actually still don't practice yoga in any studio space in the city. I don't actually go to any classes still.
Same.
I love the people, that run it, the teachers that are there.
Yeah.
I still don't feel comfortable. And some people might say, yeah, that's on me to get comfortable about it. Yeah, sure. But if I know I'm not comfortable there, why I'm not going to go to spaces that don't. And Megan, I'm quoting you because I know we just talked about it today. Spaces that don't give you ease, because I know she's going to listen to it and be like, "Boo boo, you just like." I'm like, yes, thank you, sis. Spaces that don't give you ease, just to give me the reminder of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was interesting to create the space back then that I was in. And it's interesting to be in this space that I'm in now with like these great people that are like wanting to do those outside of the community things. Sorry, y'all, my cat's coming up in here, so just
Sorry. I
give
know
him
I
a chance.
saw his tail.
Give him a chance to do what he's got to do. Hello. Okay, Bups, come here. This is what he just want. I'm just gonna
Oh,
hold
you
him while.
wanted to make a guest appearance. Hello.
Hi, Boops. Hey, Bups. Ah,
So pretty.
just purring. Every time I'm
Aw.
sitting down, always wants to be like, come here.
Right to the
Yeah,
lap. Yep.
goodness. Yeah, that's me.
Man, thank you for telling us about your journey because we all have our own very unique stories and paths. But the reason I asked just about everybody that question is so that we all can see, even with the differences that we experience individually in our paths, there's still so many common threads that we all experience in this space because of the society that we're born into.
Yep.
And it's no fault of our own. at all. It's,
Yep.
we're working to do the best we can to dismantle it, but it's still something that's been deep seated into the fabric of our way of life.
Gonna take.
So it's hard we're fight it, but we're able to still conquer and do what we can and do what we need to do. And it's obvious because you all are here and existing and doing these fabulous things, which is why I created this, because I'm like, nah, I need people to see this and hear it for themselves and understand that you're not alone at
Yeah.
all. And like, you mentioned something that made me think of the term yoga teacher identity crisis.
Mm.
And ooh, is that common? And that's just across the board. You don't have to be black, white, South Asian, whatever. Like, it occurs, especially when you are on this side of the the world. Yoga is made to look like it's presented a certain way.
Yeah.
And as a teacher, you're like, okay, so I've got to build my class so that it looks like this and that I make my voice sound like this. And this is how I'll be successful. And then they reach this point of burnout or their relationship with yoga changes. And it's
Yeah.
like, and that was because you didn't present the thing in your own unique way, your
Yep.
own unique light. You can still honor the practice and be you at the same time.
100%.
Yes. So
And all that
I
else too.
appreciate that so
Yeah.
much about you for finding that voice within you and not necessarily falling into that identity crisis, because it happens often. And it breaks my heart when I hear, new instructors have that experience and almost feel disheartened at some point. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, baby, boy, baby, girl, baby, them. You are so, so unique in what you have
Yeah.
to offer. Show that. How do you want to be in this space?
And it's gonna take some time before any teacher gets to there. And like I'll even say even now, sometimes I still go up to a place and I'm like, oh, maybe I should change my way because like people are gonna want a certain thing, and then I'm like, fuck that shit, I'm too tired. Like that
Exactly.
shit right now. I'm just gonna do what I gotta do so that I feel more at ease. And like we have a teacher training actually going on right now. And I'm always just like, it's important that you show up as you are so
Mm-hmm.
that you can reflect on what you're teaching, but also what you're taking in. Because, like, you are giving, but you are also receiving because you have to
Yes.
read people. And if you can't even give out your own, people have a hard time reading you. So then they don't know how to even
Yes.
provide that. They'll replicate that. And it's like, if you're not replicating your true self, they're not gonna, they're not gonna replicate they're gonna replicate what you've provided them, and that's how we got into this like
Right.
issue. And it's hard, and like people will always sound like the teacher that they learned from.
Yep.
It's up to the teacher to be like, okay, so like, love that you taught that. Now,
Mm.
like, if you were to put that in your own voice, what would it sound like? And
Thank
sometimes the
you.
answer is like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I there's some phrases that I already hear you say all the time, like yeah, or like what
Yes.
is it about this that you don't like? Or write this in like 10 different ways and let me know like what actually suits you. What do you
Mm-hmm.
connect to the most? Do you connect to nature the most? Are you an elemental type teacher? Are you
Yeah.
like a feelings
Ooh,
type teacher? Are
look
you
at
like a
you.
brick and mortar type teacher? So you always love talking about to the window, to the wall, floor, ceiling, whatever. I was gonna go. I was like, don't do it. But
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. It's really hard it takes time for people, I think, on their own personal journey and their own practice to like
Yeah.
find their own voice. We all want to mimic because it does feel safe and then it's
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. And then it's nice to see when teachers like explore outside of that. But
Yes.
it's if the training provides them the space to do that, to
Mm-hmm.
open that up, right? And I know it's hard for a lot of trainings to have like different facilitators to learn from that teach differently or come
Yeah.
from different spaces rather than just within their own space, you know. But again, that all just depends on like we do what's cozy and we do what's comfortable too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that you mentioned that about supporting your teachers in finding their voice from the beginning,
Mhm.
because Yeah, I've seen that happen where folks will learn maybe like from a handful of people within the program, and they just come out as little cookie cutter replicas of those four, few individuals.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't until, because my 200 hour, they did a good job at really, first of all, spreading it out over several months, like from
Ooh, I love
January
that.
to like May
Yeah.
was the entire length of the training, and we would meet twice a month. Is that right?
That's not bad. Yeah, yeah. That's what kind of what
Yeah,
me, six
just
months and twice.
about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, twice a month, and we would have we had the opportunity to teach from the beginning.
Mm,
So they would offer like a community class
yeah.
to the general area, either and it was a donation based type of class. So whenever they had a teacher training going on, the trainees would be facilitating that class, and you could volunteer to teach this portion or this portion or that portion or that, and we'd also be participating in the class. So we're not only being able to facilitate our own voices from the very beginning, but we're able to hear different voices and be like, oh, I liked how they did that, let me go ahead and pick that. I liked how they did that, let me go ahead and pick that. And not to mention, they were running a studio, obviously, with a bunch of other teachers. And they're like, you must observe, X amount of teachers for the X amount of hours,
Yep.
ask them questions, do all of this. And I'm like, I was so grateful for them for that, because moving into a different training that I was a mentor on, that experience wasn't there. And I'm like,
Mm,
from that point, I'm like, hearing the trainees have those same types of things where they're like, I just don't feel like I'm doing this right, or it doesn't sound like how they do it. And I'm like, and who said that you had to?
yeah.
Did
Why?
nobody say that? And if they did, tell me who it was so we
Tell me.
can fight later.
I'll be there. No. But like
Right.
that's the thing, and it's hard to sometimes it's hard to explain that as well
Yeah.
because it's not that you're trying to say like, oh, the way that this person does it isn't the right. That's not what you're trying to say.
Not at all. No.
You're trying to say this person has their own voice. They have taken years to cultivate that voice.
Yes.
Take your years and cultivate yours. Know that you're
Yes.
worthy and that you are courageous to cultivate yours. Like, do it up. See what that looks like for you. You already
Thank
know
you.
how you show up around your friends.
Thank
You
you.
know how you show up around like the family members that you care about. So if that's what you're putting into this teaching is what you care about, speak to it like you care something the fuck about it.
Thank
That's really it. And when
you.
you don't feel like you care about it at that time, that's okay to pull back and be like, I don't want to teach today. My voice isn't feeling authentic today, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like to I sometimes like I understand like, you gotta keep consistent with classes. I do get that. Yes, for sure. And like as a studio owner, I'm always like, be consistent for your classes because it's really important because like I need you to in that
Yeah.
capitalistic aspect. Okay. I will admit that because like we all gotta eat. But there's sometimes where I'm like, if you're feeling shitty and you still have to teach, because like, for some of us it's not an option to
Yeah.
not. You gotta pay your bills. Then teach a class that like respects that energy. You don't
Yes.
know who else is feeling. I'm not saying you gotta like be, you know, um unresponsive or anything else, but know that you can
Mhm.
also show up like chill.
Yeah.
Listen, sometimes at my period, I'm like, I do not want to move right now. It is
Yeah.
painful to move. It's painful to move. So I go in and I'm like, you know what? We're doing a slow flow today and we're taking it really easy because I just want to walk around slowly in my sweat
Yes.
and my favorite sweater with my heating pad around my belly while y'all just move slow. That's all I want. I want
Yes.
to lay down on the mat here and I'll even communicate to them. I was like, y'all, my period's here. Okay. I do not have time to play.
At
We are
all.
going to slowly roll around this floor and we're all gonna just roll around this floor. That's what we're gonna do, and sometimes that's exactly what they need. Not always, but sometimes some people are like, I haven't slowed down this week. It's weird that like that's happened. Or like,
Oh,
I kept being like, yeah, energy, energy, energy. And then I'm like, ooh, maybe give me some time to think,
a
and
little bit of a
it's not
chill
for
pill.
everybody.
Yeah.
But I think what happens we're afraid to use our authentic voice. We're afraid that people will leave us if we use our own voice.
Mm.
And that will happen.
What is it? Rejection sensitivity?
That's what
Yeah,
I have. Yeah.
me too.
By the way, I'm neurospicy, as they say. I'm neurospicy.
What's up? What's up, fam? What's up?
Yep, object impermanence. This bitch does.
Oh my God.
And
Don't
I'm
get me
like,
started
oh,
on that
what?
one.
And like that's also something when teaching, I don't think people have realized too. It's like there's different people that come to teach from different spaces, whether it's brain, whether it's body, whether it's soul, whether it's whatever. And not everyone's going to be for you in that space. You can still
Yeah.
make room for everybody. And the way to make room for everybody is just like, you come, try it. You welcome, you try it. Don't
Yes.
matter where you are, you try it. If someone says, hey, I don't actually like it's not for me, you go, it's okay.
Yep.
Cause like I'm not here to push you into being
Hmm.
like me, like my classes, love my shit.
Thank you.
Because it's too much energy that I like for me, it's also too much energy for that other person to feel obligated in that, you know?
Ooh, yes. Yeah, I'm big on I know I'm not for everybody and I'm okay with that.
Hmm.
As you were talking, and going in on that whole neurodivergence thing, I just realized I'm like, I really don't teach a class that's really, good for a neurotypical person. So more than likely anyone that doesn't deal with the same things that I do probably not going to really be a fan of my class, and I'm fine with that.
That's
That is
okay.
okay because I have built something that fits for me and
Mm-hmm.
fits for anybody that's going through similar things as me. And if that's not you, there's no fault to that. I'm of course I'm not going to be too happy about the fact that dang, we couldn't connect, but that's
Of course.
okay. We can get you somewhere else where you can find that connection.
If
I'm
you have
not trying
come
to
to my
force
yeah,
it. Yeah.
no, and you can't. And it's like if you have come to my class and you found out that you don't like it, I've taught you something.
Thank see, yes.
I've
Thank
taught you that
you.
my style
Thank
ain't the one for you, and
you.
there might be some,
Listen to
or
that.
maybe I've taught you, and I'm not putting this as like a oh me. Maybe I've taught you something of this is what I actually like, or maybe you have taken the time to teach yourself what you actually enjoy.
Yes.
Maybe that person will teach themselves to try something new. Don't just come because the time slot fits your life. But also because I get it, you have to sometimes. Like
Right.
if
But find
but
what works.
but you'll
Yes.
see people start to switch, being like, I actually go to this class because it makes me feel like I can
Mm.
connect to myself better. And then
Yes.
sometimes a teacher will teach people to explore beyond them. Ain't
Hmm.
nobody belong to me. We don't do that shit. Ain't nobody belong to me.
At all.
My like it's not like oh my and I don't even like saying students. Like I don't think my student the
Hmm.
people that come through it and back and like you're still gonna get like you said like you're still gonna be like oh I wish like it sucks that we couldn't connect and stuff. I'm like
Yeah.
ooh they really didn't like what I taught, and I'll get in my feels for a little bit and then I was like but it
Okay.
was such a great class. I was told it was a great class. Sometimes
Right.
sometimes
And
I'll be like
sometimes you get that
oh
feeling
I
too,
know when it
like,
wasn't
hold up, let me pop my own collar real
right. I'm
quick
like
because
oh,
that
this was
was kind of
great.
fire.
And then
Okay.
sometimes I was like you need to review what the fuck that was about. I'm like go back to that notebook. You need to scratch that shit off. You need to rework that because that ain't working. And
Been there, been
that's
there.
the good thing of being able to say, I didn't like how that felt. Let me change that up. But also, that's
Hmm.
another thing of like teaching too. And so I think it's just like really interesting to see how the aspect of teaching has changed
Hmm.
from way back to now. Um, the aspect of people showing up and how that's
Oof.
changed, but also where people are practicing.
Yeah.
Because like I love the studio space that I have. Don't get me wrong. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. But yoga's out on the streets. I'll just like say yoga's on the streets. Like if I can talk to someone and maybe support them throughout their day, like that is it. If someone
Yeah.
has taught me something while crossing the street and having a conversation,
That's it
that's it.
too. Yeah.
If I have to get into my own feels and be like, why am I feeling such a jealous bitch right now? And I'm like, you know why you are? And then I'm like, okay, yoga's worked on the streets. It's not always the four walls of a studio. Unless you have an
Yeah.
octagon studio, those walls too. But if you do, I want to see because that's interesting. Um,
Look.
right?
No, and I'm glad that you segued into that because I really wanted you to talk a little bit more about your studio space. And you said it's Union 108, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Tell
Yeah.
us all about your space and all the
Hmm.
things you offer. I want to hear all of it.
So I actually just bought it in February.
Congrats.
I was the studio. Thank you. I'm learning to say thanks. I was a studio director for a year before that. The studio originally opened in 2021, and the bosses I had were like just really great. Honestly, I two really great people that do a lot of stuff with their heart, even though it's not always seen that way, but they really did. And I don't know where I'd be in that sense. And then December, they were just like, we just want to sell it to you. And I was like, I get it. I was like, the
Wow.
phase for them has shifted. And
Yeah.
like, I was like, okay, you know what? I think I can do this again. There were some things I had to look at as like, do I really want to do this again? Because I just closed and I like the freedom.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? No, I can do this again. And it was just the teachers that we have, the people that come through are just so amazing. So we offer yoga and Pilates and like fitness classes because we mesh all three together. Because I just feel like again, me doing different modalities, it made sense to have different offerings for people so that they can see the
Yeah.
difference. Um, we also have a yoga therapist and we also have coaching. So I do the coaching portion, and then our yoga therapist, Katrina, is there. And we've called that the wellness. So it's like an offshoot of like Union 108. So that's lovely. We've got retreats. Then we have the teacher training, which like I'm the main facilitator, but we have other facilitators from different avenues. So we do Indigenous and Settlers Relations as like a lecture.
Yes.
Um, the BIPOC experience in Western wellness spaces,
Oh,
female
yes.
business of yoga, which is like more than 3 hours. We talk about everything from the perspective of how it pertains to what you do every day. And like even with teaching, it's like find different avenues of like how you want to teach. So we'll teach them how to use props, yoga for different bodies. We
Hmm.
have how that works with athletes as well, because that is a space where I'm in a space where actually hockey is really big for like kids. And
Yeah.
so this actually gives people a different look about how the pressures of like family, the pressures of like the area, the pressures of
Yeah.
like making it to the grades too, and how that can actually impact a kid's mental health, and maybe adding in the physical of yoga, of giving them a space to breathe and like see their sport differently.
Hmm.
And even within all of that, we still give them like discovery lessons of like, where do you want to be down the road? Even if it's not
Yeah.
teaching, how do you want to use these tools to support like you and like maybe the people around you?
Yeah.
And then last year we offered everyone like 12 a year of like mentorship, and this year we're doing six.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
see,
Yeah, so right after they get like one
hell
session of that.
yes.
Yeah, and like this year has been very tumultuous because we've been all over the place, but they still get that year where no matter what time and space it is, they get to just ask, and they can ask and just like learn from it, and like we help them if they need help with something. We find stuff if they want to. It's really up to them again in that mentorship to like jump into it.
Mm.
But that's offered to them. And then this year we've also added a trauma informed training on top of their, so you get like they finish their 200 hour and they can go do a 25 hour
Yeah.
certificate without cost. So to like close that barrier off a little bit. And our teacher training is actually pretty price pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty
And with everything that you just listed off, I'm like, God damn, that is a, well, I don't even know the word I'm looking for. That is very inclusive of so many really necessary things. I'm I'm blown away over here. Like, is this all just only in person or
yeah, no, actually. I was like, yeah. I was like, no, but it's not. No. So what we do is it is live. So like There's a live stream at the same time as we're doing the lectures, and then it gets uploaded every week. They get to keep it there for a year, and then I have to remove it so I can put the new one on there, depending. But yeah, we never do like a full recording where someone would just go on and pay and then come through, because the
Mm-hmm.
conversations we have change from person to person.
Right.
And the aspect of the lectures, the aspect of the tradition, the aspect of where people are coming from, it's always going to change group for group. So it doesn't make sense
Mm-hmm.
for me to say, like, let me just put up this information for you to learn
Right.
and then step away. As much as I thought about it and I'd love to, there's so many different things. I change, they change, something I learn comes
Exactly.
into play. And like, instead of me just like updating it, I know everyone's like, the evergreen model is the best thing to do. And I'm just like, fuck evergreen right now. Like, color. But I would rather something more flow, and like it changes with like what's going on in the world, what's
Right.
going on in our small town, what's going on in terms of the industry is changing, rather than it
Mm-hmm.
being like, this is it, this is it, and this is it. And I think that's where things get lost,
Yeah.
because then we're not helping people connected to what they're doing every
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm.
If we get to learn about them, and if someone says like, you know what, I work for the government 9 to 5, this is something that I'm doing here because I really want to step out of here and whatever else, then we take that and go, here's how this might pertain, or tell us,
Right.
how do you think this is pertaining from like what we're learning right now?
Right.
How do you think like indigenous and settlers relations are like pertaining to like that type of work and what you're in?
Yes.
How do you think the practice of yoga pertains to how like you show up at work or in at home, or whatever it may be? And then people get a chance to actually sit with it rather than just
Mm-hmm.
blow through it.
Mm.
They get to sit with it, and they also get to make connections with each other in that aspect, being like, yeah, that thing we talked about, like I found out I need support, or I find out I need this.
Yes.
And it is definitely with a BIPOC focus for sure, because I'm definitely putting like my experience does definitely do
Exactly.
it,
And
and
it's
like theirs as
impossible not
well,
to.
right? And so like that I feel is like a big thing too, because I feel like we always keep talking about like, yeah, we've got that diversity and inclusivity portion
Right.
portion. Why the
This
fuck am I
this
breaking this
day
down to a
of a
fucking
couple
portion?
hours.
And I was like, why the fuck am I like, we have one, don't get me wrong, but every time we talk about something, every lecture, it's already in there. Always bring it back, bring it back. So you remember, so you remember, so you remember that these
And then you
bodies
can have the
super.
larger discussion that one day. Yeah,
See how
exactly.
this reflects in
Yes.
this. See how this reflects in this. See how this reflects maybe in this community. This is someone who can bring in their experience and let you know how this portion reflects in that community, in that aspect,
Mm-hmm.
in this like container of the system. And because I don't want to be a portion. I don't want to be a section. I don't want to be just a fucking 3 hours. Because like,
It feels like an afterthought.
yeah, and like even and like don't get me wrong, I'll go in and I still do diversity inclusivity trainings and different other training spots for sure, because it's something that like
Yeah.
I've taught for a long time. But I will give people homework to think about it past that.
Yeah.
So when you walk up to another space, what do you see? How do you
Mm-hmm.
feel? What do you notice now that we've had
Mm-hmm.
a conversation? And some people will come back being like, "Oh fuck!" I'm like, "So what do you think?
Yeah.
You just like sit there with it, or are you actually gonna like figure out what you can do safely
Yes.
to change it?" And sometimes it's like, I'm just not gonna teach. I'm gonna teach where people can access. Yeah, that's a big thing. You know,
Mm.
where people can access, and like to also know that the business of yoga isn't like lucrative. So like when you see these places upstairs, you know why. That's the cheapest spot to rent. It's the cheapest spot to rent. That's the best jump. That's the best start off. But so when you can
Yeah.
find a place where people can get to, or if you feel like, okay, you're up here, how can you satellite out? And
Yes.
sometimes it just depends on like, yeah, I get it. Everyone has their business model. Everybody has like their what ifs and whatever else. But it's like, how do you support the people that are working with you? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
wrapping all the way back to the union and stuff. What I love about like the teachers and the training and everything else that we're doing is that like, if it's possible and we can support someone doing something outside of that to like help them build who they are, or to like delve more into their interests, people are going to teach what interests them.
Yeah.
And then they might find other avenues in that rather than just show up and teach. If you're just coming to show up and teach, I get it. Sometimes we have to, because it's like there's a lot more going on than just like teaching. But if
Mm-hmm.
you start to figure out, like, what do I actually enjoy teaching people? Like, what's interesting me right now? Ooh, you know what's
Yeah.
interesting right now? Disney. Okay. So how does that pertain? Like, how does that pertain to like what you? I don't know. I'm we're on the Disney Channel right now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what is helping you facilitate that? If like right now you're feeling like God is rising, okay, cool. Like, how are you putting that into play?
Exactly.
But yeah, so
Ooh, we got to
mhm.
blast your training all over the world
Sorry,
because,
y'all. Okay.
yo, that I mean,
Yeah.
it's needed to have spaces like yours
Mhm.
where those things are put in the forefront,
Yeah.
rather than treated as something that you should learn in a continued education type of asset. That should be foundational. So I am so
Yeah.
glad that you have all of that included in what you're providing, because that makes such a well-rounded teacher and someone that can find their voice and and it starts with being able to see yourself.
Yes.
So with that BIPOC focus, like, I was the only Black person in my training in Iowa, Illinois area.
Mhm.
And though my instructors, they frequented India a lot for their own learning and practices and things like that, so they brought a lot of it back, which was helpful. But still, in a cultural context of where we were, I was living a much different experience than everybody else was because they're all white,
Mhm.
and that was not something that I was given the opportunity to really fully understand, even though, yeah, I was given opportunity to find my voice. But it's like, but is this a space that is okay with my voice?
That's the thing.
Yes. I
And it's
didn't feel
okay if it's
seen often.
yeah. It's
Yes.
okay if it's a space that's not okay with your voice. That's okay. I got other shit to do. I got shit to do and I got places to find and I like, that's okay. That's on them. And like I'm even at the space now of like I'm not here to converse about how you aren't considering that people like me might want to be there. If you're like the only one
Yes.
in the area or if whatever else. That's okay. Don't consider it. That's on you. I have no choice but to consider it.
Mm-hmm.
I live in this body and I know other people live in bodies that are similar or like are viewed similar. And so therefore I will. Or someone else might. Or I'm gonna go to the place that does. And like I would hope that these spaces that know that they can't facilitate that, they don't have the capacity to keep that long term,
Mm-hmm.
start putting their money in those spaces that can.
Yeah.
Or support those spaces that can, or recommend those spaces that can, or put those spaces that can in the forefront rather than say, this is what we do. And like, we're like no other place. And we're like, don't say you're like no other place, okay? Because like, just, uh-uh.
Right.
Say like,
Exactly.
we might not, it's unfortunate that we're not the space that you'd love to visit. Here are a list of like 5 other places in the area that we love what they're doing. Not
Yes.
similar to us.
And that's still going to turn around and be good pub for you, because they're going to say, I learned about this from so and so at so and
Mhm.
so.
And that's how that other place starts to get actually more open because then people go,
Mhm.
oh, you're not actually afraid of these people. It's just like there's something that you're working on that's not cultivating right now, but at least you're showing people where they can go. And because of that, I'm gonna come try your space out because I do believe that you tried. Like even
Yeah.
just the recommendation of or pumping that person up, like that's the hype. Let me come
Hmm.
see if I can be there. Let me see if maybe we can work together instead because I really love how that worked out. And then it changes rather than saying like we just need you to be at the center so we can like token your shit out and get people in the door. I mean,
Ugh.
Jesus.
Don't get me started on
Yeah, I
tokenism,
was like, I
because
can't.
Lord,
It's hard.
Lord.
It's a hard, and it's hard, and it's like hard
Yeah.
because it's like sometimes it isn't that, but we see it as that too. That's another thing. Sometimes it isn't that, and we see it as that because we still also believe that the person who is that we believe is being tokenized can't advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
We still don't know the conversation that they're having, whether they were like, actually, I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna fuck shit up. That's what I'm about, like, or
Yeah.
that could be the thing too, or it could be like someone at that point had the opportunity to do that, and that's great. And I
Hmm.
think they will know. I feel like sometimes when it comes to like tokenization, that person will know how they feel that
Yeah.
way. If that person feels that way, not if anyone on the outside feels that way.
Yeah.
that
because
person
it,
needs to
it definitely goes twofold where outside perception is
Mhm.
different than what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen that happen in all of those aspects where those that are looking outside looking in kind of have that side eye about the situation, and the person that is actually in the situation is just, completely fine, thriving, doing this. I'm like, I'm not gonna knock it if it's working for you, but the
Mhm.
second that anything changes, I got your
Yeah, yeah.
back.
I'm just like, that's good. Get your money, get your things. Oh,
Right.
they did what? Where we go?
What you say they
Like,
did? Well, oh, okay. We write at dawn. We write at dawn.
right. Love John. It's bright outside. And that's the thing. It's like, I think we also have to try and have that space of support too. And I think
Yes.
that's another thing that I've been noticing that like we were talking about that this morning. So like we were very lucky to get like a Lululemon grant to facilitate a wellness providers retreat to give like wellness providers a space to build their business, to work together in a
Yes.
community, to find spaces to co-work and then some and then some and then some. And the one thing that came up is like it's a cutthroat type of space, wellness, because it's considered non-essential. We
Mm-hmm.
know it's essential, but it's considered non-essential. And because
Right.
it's in that space of in our minds of non-essential, and Aaron, I'm quoting you because you were saying this morning. Like, okay, you're going here, and but there's a potential of the person saying, oh, you know what, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go over here because the pricing's really great, or I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over here, and therefore we get in this space of like, oh, why is that person in this popular? I don't even want to say popular in this space.
Yeah.
Is it because they're like this, or is it because they need to fill a quota? Is it because of this, because of this, because of this? And we go into that with our own insecurity sometimes
Mm-hmm.
without even just asking the person, so like, how'd you get that? Where can I get that? What are some ways you did to like get there? And if the person starts to sit down and reflect and go like, I'm seeing some patterns here that I actually don't like that I'm feeling like this way.
Mm-hmm.
That's something. But then we get into this point where everyone jumps on it and says like, you're being tokenized. You're being tokenized. And the person's like, whoa, trust me. Trust me also first to trust myself.
Right.
Still be there and like be concerned for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then like let me do something about it. And if
Right.
I'm seeing that, then yes. And I think
Exactly.
but it's so complicated too, because like sometimes we see and we're like, oh yeah, that person's there because of that, but like where would these people be too if like they probably ask, they probably put themselves up there, they're probably doing different work that you're not seeing too.
Mm-hmm.
So I find there's always actually a very big like fight amongst BIPOC sometimes. It's like a silent
And
silent fight
and
of
I
like,
will
oh
say that that stems a lot
yeah,
to supremacy culture in general, because things we've had to basically fight to prove ourselves in
yeah,
every aspect of life, that it just bleeds into everything that we're
everything.
doing. So when I see it happen in, the yogic space, it does like feel kind of, heartbreaking, because there that's not what this is about.
No, stop
Like,
letting that shit win.
thank you. Stop
Step
letting
back a
that
bit and
stuff
just be like, oh, okay,
win.
how can I, what am I feeling here? Why am I feeling this? How can I support the person? And like also be okay with like, this is how I'm feeling. And like, that was fucked
Hmm.
up. That was some fucked up feelings. Maybe I should like pull back. And it's hard, but like, I think it, like you were saying, like supremacy culture shows up like all the time,
All the time, and in
all the time,
very insidious and sinister ways. Like,
all the
you
time.
don't even fully realize it until like something major happens, and
Yeah.
then it makes you think back on all these other tiny little things that were happening throughout the entire life of it, and then you're like, oh shit. And it's there again, no fault to you. This is what we've been conditioned into, and it's part of the like I said, the fabric of our lives now. And fighting it is hard as hell, but necessary for your own peace.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
100%.
that's the that's the word I'm looking for. Peace. It's for your own peace, because I that competitiveness that gets seen in the yoga
Mhm.
spaces too. It's like, we're all very uniquely doing things in our
Yeah.
own way. And if that person has a class full of like 70 people, fantastic. I am happy with whoever shows up, whether it's
Mhm.
one or 21 or 41 or
Just love the people
71.
that
I
showed
don't
up.
care. I
Yes.
am happy for the fact that someone did show, and
Yes.
that's okay because there is space enough for all of us to be able to do our thing in our way
Mhm.
because we're all providing a different experience.
I
I can't
think
remember who I was talking to. It might have been Shanice, but um she spoke on like using a template to like a yoga sequence template to teach from, and I'm like, and there's nothing wrong with things like that, because you can take the same however many number of poses and give it to 10 different teachers and have 10
that's what it
extremely different classes.
is.
Same poses, different energies. So
Yeah.
it's okay. That's why there's space enough for all of us here, because we're all doing something so different. That competitiveness has no space in yoga, because the people that want your energy will find you.
Hmm.
They
And that's the
totally
thing.
will.
I think that's hard for people, and like with like, and I understand why it's hard for people. Like we're living
Mm-hmm.
in a space or like in a time where like it is hard to thrive. It is
We
hard
on
to,
our way to the Hunger Games.
yeah, like right. Yeah,
It's
it's like
where it feels like we're
it's
going
like
towards is like the cost of groceries alone. Like we're all
listen,
striving
listen.
to live, and
Uh-huh.
it's hard to not feel
Yeah.
that competitive edge because you're wanting to survive, but
Yes. And I
having that
like,
mindset's gonna just keep it's minimizing.
and it's hard, and it's like the whole practice teaches us to like step back before we react and to keep practicing to
Mm-hmm.
step back before we react, step back before you react, step back before you react. And it's like that takes a lifetime. I'm
Yes.
always going to react sometimes, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes where I'm like, I need to keep my motherfucking mouth shut, and I need to before I say shit. Or I'm gonna send that email of like, please give me 72 hours to respond because I'm just gonna fucking yell at you and I don't wanna do that. Like, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. And it's like you get to a point where you're like, okay, I think I can sit back a little bit. Or you can express exactly what you're feeling. That's
Mm-hmm.
even hard because then you're like, the whatever it may be, consequences, this and the next thing. And it's like I do feel like with COVID and the pandemic and everything, that has given people space to step back
Oh yeah.
before like reacting. But I think with like how the times are right now, it's really hard for people not to react because things are just so tense and tight, and
Yeah.
there's a lot going on that is heartbreaking, and that is hard for people to not even want to focus on that. And so I get
Oh
that.
yeah.
But I just do hope that like teachers that are still in it continue to like take some kind of self reflection, keep learning. Because I think that's the thing that's hard. It's hard to learn now too, because
Yeah.
like to learn is going to cost you like fucking $6,000 if you want to learn something new.
Yeah.
But like maybe to learn that like they also have a lot of knowledge and to like trust that knowledge. I
Mm.
that's what I want to see the most is like people can trust their own knowledge of like what they're doing, and then to like build on that when they can and when it's time, but not to feel shame, not
Mm.
to feel shame or guilt because they can't or they don't have all these certifications.
Yes.
I didn't have all these certifications when I was teaching for this long. And now I'm doing a little bit here and there because like I'm lucky and grateful that I'm able to. But like some of
Right.
that stuff is like learning and delving into it. But there are different ways. Library is free, y'all.
Look.
Library is the gold mine of learning something, anything, wherever it is, and then like applying it safely and supportively too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow,
Mm. No,
yeah.
because yeah, that brings up such a great point. Like the though you offer a great training, and I'm gonna plug it till I'm blue in the face. The tradition of yoga has always been a verbal one, where or something where you're reading text, or just in your own self practice and self study, which is literally a yama. Like,
Yeah.
find your ways that help you
Learn.
cultivate the knowledge that you need, and
Yeah.
then cultivate your own practice. That also helps you find your own identity and voice too. Understanding the
Yeah.
practice from within you helps you in a way more than any training can ever give you to share the practice, because it's coming
100%.
from a place of understanding and
Yeah.
embodiment, rather than, well, I read this today and I'm going to implant it into my class, but did you practice it?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Did you soak it in? Did you actually soak it in, or you were just like, this looks good, this looks great, this looks really like popular, this is working for them, but like, does it actually feel good when you teach it, or does it just feel like somebody else, or does it feel like, ooh, you know?
Back to the drawing board and figure this out a little more. I'm always at the drawing board, I swear. And I'm almost a decade in on my
Yeah.
teaching journey. And it's like, I will always be inquisitive about the things that I know, or even, curious about the things that I don't know, and
Yeah.
constantly striving to really hone in my ability to embody the things that I do know, and can fully come from a place where it's something that I have internalized,
Hmm.
mulled over, had all this experience with, and then going into that.
Experience. You can't learn unless you
Yes.
experience.
Hmm.
Because the things that we learn as a person, it's all because of experience. Like learned behaviors or an experience in themselves. So, like that. If you can learn it and you can experience it, then you can apply it and at least see where it takes you. I guess.
Exactly.
Oh.
Oh, Ro, I love a good neurodivergent conversation, because I don't even remember where we started.
I was like, what the fuck were we talking about? And I was like,
You have given, and then you guys have been giving so many amazing tips and tidbits that are usually part of a question I ask everybody, is what advice do you have for new instructors? I don't
Ooh,
even know if we can, I can ask that question, if there's anything else that you wanted to add to that.
a good tip for new yoga instructors. Ooh. You know what? Learn to say no.
Mm.
Learn to say no and say it with your whole heart. Fuck no. Yeah, as a new teacher, learn to say no. Sometimes you want to teach all the classes, and I get it. It's great to get all the experience, it's great to do the things, but your energy will burn out and you
Mhm.
will fucking hate this practice. You will fucking hate the industry. You will fucking hate all about it because you consistently you were told to give your energy to people as a self-serving thing, and that's
Been
great.
there, been
Great to
there.
serve,
Don't
right?
repeat my mistakes,
It's
people.
good to serve. It's good to be in the practice of Shiva for sure, but then you also need to recognize that, like, does that act of service hurt you?
Hmm.
Is it an act of service if it's depleting? Is it an
No.
act of service if it's not encouraging? Is it an act of service if it isn't hyping? Is it an act of service if there's no rest in it? If it's an act of service if you're taking advantage of? The answer is fuck no. So then say the fuck no. And like process being okay with it.
Cheers to
Find a
that.
way to process to be okay with it because it's going
Cheers to
to
that. Oh, yes.
Oh
I love
goodness.
that. That was a perfect cherry on top of everything. So, the second part to that question, because I don't necessarily want to just talk about teachers, I want to also talk to the folks that
Mhm.
are still on the fence about practicing yoga. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to them with their journey starting out?
So people that are just starting yoga,
Yeah.
if you haven't and you're like, I don't think yoga is for me, explore that. What is for you? Maybe it's not yoga. I think the one question that I would I hear a lot is like, oh, yoga's not for me because like people do this and the next thing. I'm like, I get that.
Yeah.
And I think that's important that you're able to, I think it's great that you're able to vocalize that. So then what is for you? And sometimes I'll get like, oh, I only did like one class. I'm like, okay, so like, what else could there be from that?
Right.
So if you are just starting out, try something else. It might not be the it might not be the studio down the road. The studio down the road is more convenient, but does the studio down the road actually speak to your flavor?
Yeah.
Does it connect to your energy? If it's that Zumba class down the street, if it's that salsa class down the street, if it is that meditation practice elsewhere, that might be your yoga.
Yeah.
That might be yoga for you. If it is spoken word, if it is like travel, that might be the yoga. And maybe you find the physical practice, the asana or the aspect and the tradition of yoga somewhere else, but also know like search out the place that actually speaks to you. Like we got Google. Google
Mm.
should be used for only shouldn't be used for some deep learning, but to find out other spaces that connect to you, like find them. Don't stick to one spot. Find other places to practice. Variety, as they say, is the spice of life. Put spices on your shit. Put spices on
Sprinkle
your
a
shit.
little
Put spices on
something.
your yoga practice, okay? Put spices on your damn yoga practice. Oh,
I
goodness.
love that. I would put that on a shirt.
Yeah.
I love that.
Spices on your yoga practice, please and thank you.
Yes. No, but I appreciate that you brought up that finding your yoga elsewhere, because a lot of folks get wrapped up in, if it's not labeled yoga, it's not yoga.
Mhm.
Yoga is an umbrella term. It's very general, very broad, and it does not mean just one thing. So exactly like you said,
Mhm.
if spoken word is your yoga, wherever you're able to have that breath mind body connection, that sensory connection, that deepening of
Mhm.
your understanding of self.
Yep.
Like I was at a concert a few weeks ago, and I haven't felt or at least I got that same feeling that I did when I first practiced yoga and was able to, kind of connect with myself in a better way. It
Yes.
was the combination of the music, because I'm obsessed with the artist. It's like the music, the energy of the space, being able to breathe and really tune into my senses, and then just having the vibrations of everything going on. It was a full out blissful experience, and I'm like,
That's what's
I
up.
haven't experienced this in so long. This was the yoga I needed today. Hell, the year.
The year. This is the year.
It's been a stressful year, okay? Like, and that was my moment of realizing, yes, this was me living the yoga away from the mat, because it's so much more than whatever
Yes.
you do in an asana practice.
Yes.
Asana is such a small piece of it. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is something that a lot of us are attached to, and
Yeah.
not necessarily able to release the grip a little bit to experience it in other places. So
Mhm.
yes, thank you for bringing that up to invite that play in. Oh goodness, I
I
don't want this to end.
I know, but it's got to. My dog is like, walk me soon.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
like, I
my
get
stomach
it.
is like, where's the pie? No.
He's like, I have apple pie in the fridge.
Look, I'm about to figure something out.
Okay.
A pantry pie of some sort. We is gonna.
It's like, ha, life.
Yes, indeed. Do you have anything that you would like to plug right now?
Follow me on Instagram. My goal, I think, is actually to get to 10K. Not that it's a thing, but financially, it does help
It
me
does
actually
things.
support my family, my
Mm-hmm.
baby, my bills. So if you like what you're hearing, follow me. And other than that, be good to yourself. Don't punch anyone in the throat. Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
said that specifically for me. Thank you.
Mhm.
As a channeled message directly for your host. Thank you.
Oh, goodness. Here.
Oh my goodness. Ro, I had so much fun, and I cannot wait until we get the chance to connect again.
Agreed.
To everyone listening, like she said, go follow her on everything. If you are interested in a teacher training, take her training.
Take my training. I
I'm
also
not
want
gonna
to
punch you in the
say,
throat for it, but I might at least, like point at you aggressively, like go take that
try
training.
it. I also want to
Yes.
say that I'm just like, this is so awesome what you're doing.
Thank you.
It is so rare just to see things like this sometimes. And it's just, I don't know, just know that you are like keeping us all going because it's just good to know and see that there's other people out there too, because that is also helping those of us that are on here speaking to
Yes.
like speak our stories. So we love you all.
I love y'all so much.
You're
I
like,
really do. I really do. Like y'all keep me going. Like
hey,
you have no idea the impact that you all have on me. It is immense.
listen, it's Ubuntu for sure. We are because of you. You are because of us. Like it's full circle. For real.
Exactly. Exactly. Ugh, before I start crying on here,
Oh, fine.
y'all enjoy the rest of the day, week, whatever you got going on. I
Yeah.
appreciate y'all being here so much. This season is not over yet, so you still got a few episodes left. So come on back. I will see y'all in the next one. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Yoga in Black podcast. What did you think of this episode? Leave us a comment or a rating on whichever platform you're listening or watching from today, right after you subscribe. Be sure to follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at yoga.inblack, Facebook yoga.inblack, and TikTok yoga.in.black. Also, head to www.yogainblack.net for all your YIB needs. Next episode, I'll connect with Tiffany Ortiz. New episodes air every Tuesday. And if you'd like to be on the show, fill out our waitlist form on the website. Be sure to click on Let's Talk from the menu. I can't thank you enough for all of your support. Really, this could not be done without you. Thanks for listening.